Cool. We're on. Welcome to the Athletes Health Podcast here, talking to athletes, coaches, leaders, learning anything from the mental side of the game that we can apply to both sports and life. And that's really what I'm excited to do about this one today with our guest, Richie Contartesi. I butchered that, dude. I should have asked you before it too. How do I say your last name?
So there's two ways, but like Contartesi or Contartesi, both of them work.
Contartesi. Yeah, dude.
Contartesi.
Wow. I didn't ask you that before we started, but hey, it doesn't matter. Richie, the first thing before I got a lot of questions for you on kind of the football realm and just your whole backstory, but really quickly, can you introduce yourself, kind of what you've done and what you're doing to this day? And that'll kind of just streamline right into just us talking shop about the mental side of sports and everything else that you do.
Yeah, so essentially I help high school football players earn college football scholarships in simplest terms. We teach them how to market themselves, sell themselves, and build a business, right? Today, high school football players are a business, right? And most high school football players focus on the product, right? They work hard on the field, they work out really hard, but they don't understand the business side of high school football now and college football, which is the ability to market themselves, sell themselves, get in front of college coaches, and then turn those conversations into visits and visits into offers. So I work with athletes to do that, and it's a blessing. A little background on myself. I earned a D1 football scholarship in the SEC at Ole Miss at 5'7", 150 pounds. And so I teach a lot of the athletes the lessons that I learned so they don't make the same mistakes I do.
And I know that right when we were talking before this, one other thing we were talking about was like how you kind of do some talks for sales and whatnot. But I bring that up already right now because first thing you say is football is more than a business, or it's more than a game. It is a business.
Yeah,
And that
business.
immediately made me think about I was talking to an Iowa State coach, like a player development coach. That's exactly what he said too. And that is so key, especially now with it's Power 4, right? It's not Power 5 anymore, basically.
Right.
That's what
Yeah.
I was just talking about that. But it is such a business, and that's kind of where I like to talk about performance in both sports and life, and which is why I want to talk to you so much about this. And before we kind of go into how you help out the other people, I wanted to hear kind of like the biggest lessons you took away as being the undersized guy getting into Ole Miss, getting into the SEC conference. But what was that kind of like from you?
So I think like so there's like, I guess we'll call them myths or lessons, but like a lot of people think you've got to be the biggest and best football player possible, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Like there's a 1.1 million high school football players, and hundreds of thousands of them are really good. It's not about being the best at just football. You got to be able to play. Don't get me wrong. But
Yeah.
it's the best. It's who's the best at getting in front of coaches and building relationships with coaches. And I didn't just actually go straight to Ole Miss out of high school at 5'7", 50 pounds. This is not going to work. I ended up actually going to a small 1AA school. After my first year there, I decided like I wanted to go on. I wanted to play big time. Like I felt like I was settling for less, the whole 9 yards, right? And so through relationships that I had built, actually all the way from when I was young, a coach that I continue to connect with, build a relationship with, ended up getting an internship at Ole Miss. And when I was doing outreach and calling and emailing college coaches, that's how I found out he was at Ole Miss. And then from that relationship, I was able to get a walk-on opportunity. I didn't even get a scholarship opportunity out of it. But that's what I would say is the biggest lesson is like, oh, I've got to be, I got to go to a big school, or I got to be known, or I got to be the best player, or I got to be the biggest. And it's just like it couldn't be further from the truth, right? It's the ones that are able to market and sell and get in front of coaches that are going to get the most opportunities. That's how I did it. And that's how I teach the athletes that I work with to do it. Where 83% of them, and actually this year we're already above that, get scholarships.
And you just dropped some dimes already that are so important and that are not always thought about because I feel like at least like where I'm from in Iowa, at least from my background, I always just thought, oh, the people who get it, you know. But you already stated how it wasn't just the hustle, the physical hustle of putting in all the drills and everything, like what most people think of. But you already
Correct.
talked about how it was all the connections, all the calls that you were doing, probably emails, getting out to all the coaches, getting in front of them is what really
Yep.
kind of set you apart. is what it sounds
Yeah.
like.
A lot I'm telling you, dude, like, so many parents and players that, like, they all say the same thing, like, I'm just gonna work really hard and be great on the field," and it's like, "Alright, do whatever you want, dude," like, you know, like, we had a player sign recently at Bishop Gorman, okay, which is a huge, well-known high school.
Hmm.
I'm here in Vegas, so he's one of our players, so I was able to go to his signing, it was awesome, and yes, if you go to a big school like that, sure, it helps, but, like, you don't have to go to a big school, and this misconception of, like, I have to be the biggest or the best or the most well-known, like, it's just it's false, and the players that and also, like, all I need to do is focus on being really good on the field, and it's like it's the same thing, like, like, as a business owner, it's like, all I need to do is just have a great product. It's like zero chance you'll succeed unless you get really, really lucky, which okay. So if you want to bank on getting really lucky, cool, didn't do that. Or you can take control of the situation and what we teach athletes, which is like take control of your future, take control of what you can control. And that's going out and learning the other side of the house, which is marketing and sales. So, choice is there yours, but like one lesson my parents instilled in me is you have to wake up every day and go after what you want. You don't just sit back and hope that someone finds you. That's just not a good lesson in life. But unfortunately, many players think that way.
No, and so in your journey specifically, because I do want to touch on all that stuff here when we will, but in your journey, as like you just said, your parents taught you to wake up and get after it, go after it, chase after it. That's by what it sounded like what you were doing in your journey, and like you said, you didn't want to stop at the 1A school, right? You want to pursue the next things. Is that
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so was that like basically one of the biggest motivators or drives to get you to that next level versus like other people who maybe they're like, I mean, it would be nice, but they kind of start settling or like they're out of the high school now. Like, all right, I mean, I'm somewhere playing football, that's good enough. And maybe it just comes back to what they want, but what are your kind of
Yeah.
thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely like we have a lot of players that sign. First off, I just want to say there's nothing wrong with signing like an NAIA or a D2 scholarship offer. Like this is amazing. You know what I mean?
Good point.
A lot of people
Yeah.
frown upon that, and I think that's ridiculous, especially today.
Yeah, you're
But
still
that's what
playing. I was
yeah,
just gonna add on, you're still playing collegiate athletics, That's
it's
pretty
amazing.
pretty impressive.
Yeah. I mean, I just like I don't know, dude. Like I'm just super like driven, and also like one thing I do talk a lot about is like I'm kind of like delusional too. Like when I was on the field, I'm on the field with guys like not guys like, but on the field with Michael Orr from The Blind Side and
Mhm.
like Dexter Buster and Mike Wallace. And I just didn't see them as better than I was, right? I didn't see them as bigger than I was. And so like I just felt like I should be there and I wanted to be there. And so, and I have to I do also think like parenting, like my parents always said to me no matter what, like you could play at the top level and there's like you can 100% play at this top level. And like I believed it. Um, where I do know a lot of parents don't say that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like I don't know, there's this fine line of like, okay, this person's talent level has no chance. And like my size, I had no chance, right? But like I don't know. My parents always did that. I believed I could. And I also really, really, really it was the only thing that mattered to me, so I obsessed over it. Right? Like, so it's not for everybody.
The obsession is a key piece to it, and it was that almost delusional optimism, like you said. Now this this it's the truth. Obsession and optimism. Is this something that you guys like help the athletes that you're working with? Or is this something that you can kind of train them, coach them on, or is that all intrinsic, what they have, what they want to give, and any of that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, look, like I think we are always very transparent and honest and upfront with anybody that reaches out to us about the level they play at. Like the first step in our process before we'll even work with an athlete is we do a professional evaluation. So my head coach here at Next Play has 15 years of D1 recruiting experience, and we're actually building the team. Whether it's him or one of our team members that do an evaluation of an athlete, we watch their game film. We evaluate what level they have the best chance to play at, whether it's or to earn a scholarship at. Because we really only work with guys where we can help them get a scholarship.
Yeah.
Right? If we can't help you get a scholarship, it's like we don't want you to waste your money. So whether it's NAI, D2, and then D1, you have FCS, G5, or the 4, like we're going to let you know up front where you have the best chance to get a scholarship at. And we put them in percentages. So like 50% of your time will be spent at the where you should absolutely get one, 30% at the next higher level, 20% where it's like, it's going to be really like you just need one coach to believe in you kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll let them know like, okay, here's where you could potentially like walk on. Right. And then Power 4, that's becoming, we'll see what happens there. But we'll tell them like, you can walk on here, but it's going to suck. You're going to get your ass kicked every day, so you're not going to get a scholarship in year 1. So we'll tell them, but like, if it's a kid and he's like, if he's like me and he's like, I don't care about anything. I just want to play D1 and I'll do whatever it takes and I'll get my butt kicked for 4 years. Cool. I'll let them know the truth of what it's like, that they can do it. Because I do believe like my parents doing that with me really played a big part in it. And it's also why I'm even on this podcast and have the opportunity to be here and work with, companies and all these kids. So yeah, I think it does matter.
I like how you break that down too for them. Like I never thought about that. That's why I was so interested in talking to you, just to learn more on the actually getting scholarships and get to the collegiate sports, because that's something that always is people like talk to me about. And I'm like, I know what I know, but I could always learn more. And I saw what you were doing and how you could get so many people to the college level that you worked with, and it was just so intriguing to me, and it was cool to hear that. This is a little side note, but I have to pick your brain on what you mean by this, because I was talking to someone else earlier today, and it was actually one of the first times I like heard and said like Power 4 instead of Power 5. We almost just made a joke out of it. But what do you mean by you'll see what happens with that? Is it just because of like NIL and transfers and it's the top, like it's some
Yeah.
specimens, like it's some pretty good athletes in there? Or what did you mean kind of in that regard?
Yeah, no, good question. So essentially there's a new settlement. No one knows the rules. No one knows when it's going to drop. But we do know that like July 1st is when the revenue sharing is going to begin.
Yeah.
But essentially as part of this settlement, like right now, each like Division 1 FBS program has 85 scholarships, but
Oh
they have
yeah.
they have 120 roster spots.
Yeah.
With this new settlement, they're going to increase the scholarships to 105, but they're going to decrease the roster size to 105 too. So walk-ons essentially just get eliminated. However, the SEC, I believe, opted out of it already. Doesn't mean there's just for 25 because they're like, they want to plan. So we're not seeing a ton of like portal transfers from it as of now, right? This could change like tomorrow.
Oh yeah, it's so fast right now, the way everything's
Yeah.
evolving.
So that's a big thing. And then that's what I mean by the walk-on. Like, we'll see what happens. I'll tell you why walk-ons will continue to exist. Again, this is purely opinion, and it's going to be based solely on that coach's discretion. You're going to have 105 scholarships. There's no chance, like an SEC program, for example, or any program at that level will be
Yeah.
able to maintain 105 SEC scholarship players. It's just not going to happen because they're going to transfer out. They're going to go somewhere that they can play. You're going to get 22 starters. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you going to have your fifth string guys on scholarship? Like, it's like, it's not going to work. So you're still going to have walk-on caliber guys. So it could actually be a thing where they keep walk-ons absolutely in the beginning, and they're just going to give them scholarships, right? And then they'll always just have like this flow of walk-ons and scholarships. That's my opinion. We'll see. But yeah, I hope that
Okay.
answers.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect answer. Because now that you say that, I remember the local, because I graduated from Iowa State, but I'm now closer to Iowa again, to the University of Iowa, and I remember them on the news saying like how they're gonna have to cut some kids, some families that they told they had a spot because of that stuff that you're talking about. They were trying to figure out how to do it, but you make a good point that it's almost like the walk-ons make a part of the team, right? I mean, like most walk-ons that I know, they bring that they have to hustle. They bring the energy, they bring the drive because they are
Right.
working for what they need to
Yeah.
get there. You know what I mean? Now, so one thing too that I really want to just talk more to you about is especially in the high school things, because I fully believe we learn so much from the athletics and sports and tie it into life. And so I love what you're doing of helping all the kind of high school football players learn the business side of it all because it does tie them so much more to life. What are some of like the main pieces you kind of teach them, or at least like buckets of stuff that they need to do to get to that next level and just kind of improve themselves as a person too, as an adult?
Yeah. Well, I think as you go through the entire process, you're just going to learn intangible skills that like you can't learn elsewhere, right? Like, we'll just make confidence. How about that? Right? Communication skills, sales skills, marketing skills, like all these skills you're going to learn throughout the process, right? So opposed to what most people do, which is like sit back, wait, hope coaches find them. This other avenue is, okay, well, let's build a brand on social media. Let's learn how to post consistently. Let's learn what time blocking is. Let's learn what time management is. Let's do outreach to college coaches. Let's learn how to handle rejection and fear and failure, right? I'm just taking you down the process,
No,
right? It's like
yeah,
as
keep it going. I love it.
now we're learning how to get people to listen to us, to do what we want them to do, right? So persuasion is a skill. Then we're going to learn negotiation skills, right? On how to negotiate opportunities and offers, and then we're going to learn in-person skills, how to shake hands, how to command a room, right? How to speak confidently. And then from there it's how to ask for what you want and go get what you want, right? Like those were I just kind of like labeled through from very beginning to posting all the way to turning a visit into an offer, all the different like skills and things that you're going to go through along the process versus what people that don't get through this opportunity and get robbed of this opportunity that sit around and do nothing is you don't learn all that stuff. And then you go through life fearing failure and allowing rejection to hold you back. And yeah. And, unfortunately, those people settle for less and then complain when they're 50 years old that they didn't live their dream.
Yep, and they're the ones who you'll see at the local bar just talk about their high school days, right? That's that's
Right.
how it usually goes, at least around here. Richie, as
I
you were
know I know it's kind of direct and blunt, but like at the end of the day, like I watch the kids we work with completely change who they are in a short period of time, and like I'm proud of it.
no, and as you should be, and that's once again ultimately why I want to pick your brain so bad because I can see how you evolve the people and it's so quick, right? I mean, in high school, everything is moving so fast. High school to college, it is quick, and I can see how you kind of adapt them through it. If you're tell me how this sounds to you. That kind of timeline that you just laid out, from like starting on the social media to actually shaking the hands and talking with the coaches and getting there and making the deal. Well, could we kind of walk through that in a little more in depth of why kind of each piece is important? And like for instance, like starting with the social media and then you went into like time blocking and stuff. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I'll walk you through it and the importance of it. That's not
okay.
a problem. So, first thing is you got to make sure you're targeting the right schools. If you are not targeting the right divisions or the right schools, everything I'm going to share with you at this point on is an enormous, giant waste of time. Right. So if you're an NAI scholarship player based on your game film right now, and you're reaching out to Alabama, like you're not going to have any success. Right. So first thing is get a professional evaluation and determine what level you are, what changes you need to make to your highlight video, and what potential divisions or conferences that you should be targeting. That's step one. Got to get
What's
that figured out.
just to clarify step one, what is a professional evaluation? Like of your game film? Like you take it to someone and they
Yeah, take it to, and so like get your film evaluated by someone who has recent college football recruiting experience. Like I gave you the
perfect.
example, like our head coach is D1 recruiting coordinator with 15 years of experience and recent, very recent, like within a year.
Yep.
Um, you could do it with us, you could do it with someone else, doesn't matter, but get one. Don't just because your trainer who played college football or is a high school football coach. Nothing wrong. Like high school football coaches are amazing, but like it's different when you evaluate film as a high school football coach versus a recruiting director or a college football coach.
And
So just
that's what I
make
was
sure.
wondering. That's what I was wondering. So thank you for
Yeah.
clarifying that one.
Yeah. No, it's really good. Really good. I'm glad you asked. Super important to do it that way. Now that you know the divisions, then you've got to choose the top 50 to 60 schools. That's where you start with 50 to 60 schools based on your evaluation. And then things that it's important to you, right? Like your major, how far you are away from home, like all of those things matter too. So that's how you're going to determine your top 50 to 60 schools based on your level of play, where you have the best chance of getting a scholarship, and then the other things that matter to you from the school, right? Once you have those top 50 or 60, now it's time to start marketing, right? Because when you do outreach to college coaches, you got to have somewhere to send them, all right? So marketing really matters. What does that mean? That means all of the 95% of the recruiting today is done on X, okay? You should get a LinkedIn. If you want to build your brand on all socials, we suggest that, but it's all done on X, meaning you need to be posting 4, 5. And some of our top guys, they post every single day. Now we teach them how to post and spend 1 hour a week and schedule all your posts for the entire week, right?
It's an important
But you
skill.
got to post consistently. Yeah. And there's a reason you have to post consistently. One is because when you start doing outreach to college coaches and you start following them and they follow you back, you want them to see your name over and over and over and over again. You want them to see your plays over and over and over. You want them to get to know you a little bit so that by the time you reach out to them, they will be more apt to respond. Right? It's like, oh, I do a bunch of outreach and no response. One, you don't customize it. It's the same generic template everyone else sends. And two, there's no reason for them to respond to you, right? There's no reason for them to watch it. So that's how you start building your brand, right? We're not like getting brand deals yet, right? We're not doing NIL yet. We're just trying to get consistent posting on social media so that the next steps work, right? So once we're posting consistently on social media, you have your highlight video there, you have your page optimized so that when someone lands on it, they know who you are. Then from there, we start doing outreach to college coaches. This is where we email them, we follow them on social media, and we DM. And we do it on all the platforms, not email and X. Okay. And some guys make phone calls, but we do it in multiple places so that they see you in multiple places. That's the purpose of it. And sometimes some coaches, they want to talk on the phone. Sometimes coaches will only email. Sometimes people will only do X, right? They'll only respond there. So sometimes I hear all the time, like high school, like coaches or parents, and they'll just be like, all you have to do is, and I'm like, zero chance. There is no, all you have to do is email. All you have to do is call. All you have to do is like not even close, right? To get lucky, all you have to do is, right? But what we suggest is you email, you follow on X, and then you DM on X, right? Now we do have an internal like AI automation tool where we do that portion for some of our athletes as well. But step one is you do the outreach and you find out who's responsible for recruiting your area at that school. So you have your top 50 to 60 schools. Cool. I want to find who's responsible at that school for recruiting Las Vegas. That's where I'm located.
Yep.
Right. So then of those 50 to 60 schools, I know who's responsible at all 60 schools for recruiting Las Vegas. Now I could follow that coach and pitch that coach and pitch them on why they should watch my video. That's it. Not pitching them on my height, my weight, my blah, 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 all that stuff. No, I just want to get them to watch my video. That's the only objective at that point. All right.
Interesting.
Now,
what
you pitch them. Go ahead.
You might go into this. Thank you for listening in and watching the Athletes Health Podcast. I just want to put this on your mind here. Upgrading the mental side of both the athletics and life, tying it into the physical stuff that we are doing. Come 2025, our mental gym is going to be revamped to studio level video quality, and our worksheets, everything will start to be licensed out to organizations, to schools, places to implement this. If you want to check out the mental gym, let me know. Otherwise, we got our online community where we are diving deeper into these deep dive subjects each week, live Q&A with the online community group where you can ask any questions about any of your teammates or anyone in the sorts, and we can hash out those mental sides and elevate the game in the online community. Otherwise, our one-on-one coaching is still leveling up. Let me know if you want to be a part of it as I keep taking on more athletes, coach them on the mental side, and sharpen their skills very specifically to their needs. Otherwise, keep enjoying this free content. I love to help you out, give you the value. If you want a little bit extra sauce, check out the weekly newsletters every Sunday. Free trick and tool on this topic that only people on the newsletter get. Check that out at the website, theathleteshealth.com. Thank you for watching and leveling up your mental game. So if you do, just keep talking, but why is that the only objection, like the only task you're trying to get out of it?
Because in sales, you only want to do one thing. You only want to try to get someone to do one thing, right? Like you want to get them to, like, a lot of times, okay, I say that because people will send this long barrage of an email with like 4 questions and like trying to get an offer from an email. It's like you're not going to get an offer from an email, right? So instead, you want to structure the email so it's very short, precise, and the only objective is to get them to click the link to watch the video. That's it. Because if you're targeting the right schools, that's why I go back to, if you target the wrong schools, everything I'm going to teach you right now is a giant waste of your time. If you're targeting the right schools and they watch your video, they're going to be interested.
Yep.
Right?
And I was just going to add, just because you answered that perfect, that's what I was thinking. Because it just goes back to, you don't want to give them this, that, and that, and have them think about all this, and then they don't do anything. It's just the very next thing. This is the next step. Just watch this. Let's see what else comes from fruition, with which you're going to walk through it. So I appreciate this, Richie. This is great.
That's the whole next play model. Just one play, one thing, right? If too many things, people won't do it. So we get them to watch the video, and then once they've watched the video, then our objective is to get them on a phone call, right? Now, could a coach say, hey, they could watch the video and say, hey, we want to invite you out on an official visit. That happens all the time. So you skip a step. But essentially, the next step is to get them on a phone call. Once you're on a phone call, that's when you have an opportunity to sell yourself and really talk about how you can potentially help their program. You learn more about their program. You ask the coach really good questions to get them excited about you. And then you tell your story and sell that coach on why they should meet you in person. And then at that point, they offer you a visit. And then on the visit, that's when you really got to sell yourself. You talk to as many coaches as you can. You shake their hand with command. You shake their hand with power. You command a room. Like, coaches are looking for this. They want players that can step up, confident, show up to practice, are on time, do the right things, are coachable. And so you could portray all of these qualities on a visit. Your body language matters. Like if you're on a visit and you're hunched over and you're kind of like nervous, like it's not going to help. So these are all things that are like really important, to do. And you do this on your visit, and then on the visit, and then at the end, you ask for the offer. And the way that I teach the players to ask for the offer is to not say, can I have a scholarship? Is to ask what you need to do to get one. Right. And so you're putting yourself in a position that I want to earn a scholarship. Right. I know nothing's handed over, but I want to know what I need to do to earn one. And typically that'll open the conversation of exactly what you need to do. And then you got to get them to tell you. Right. Or they're ready to offer you. And they're like, you know what? Like this kid is like goes and gets what he wants. And I want this guy on my team. So especially if they're on the fence and you're direct like that, like you have such a better chance of getting it on.
And I love how you phrase it, because that's, once again, another sales, another marketing thing of, it's not, oh, can I get this from you? It's, what can I do to make you give it to me, right? To really
earn it.
To earn it, exactly. To earn it. So then it even shows a different kind of perspective that you're there to really put in the time, put in the work. And with kind of this timeline of what you're saying, and I'm sure it's different from kid to kid and athlete to athlete, but one thing that gets me curious or wondering is, like, some people might be a little timid, might be a little scared to to go into that facility. Some are probably, a lot are really excited. But I'm sure others are like, this is my moment. And then, how some people, like, shine. Some people maybe hinder it down a little bit, and they do crawl up some. Do you guys do anything to like, or do you do anything to help with that? Or is that more so just like, hey, if you got it, get after this. And if you don't, we got to just get up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, look, I've been speaking for, let's see, like 12 years on stages, and I've spoken in front of thousands and thousands of people at IBM, a huge Las Vegas hotel. And what I learned on that journey is the ability to be prepared, right? People are more afraid of speaking than death in front of people. I don't know if you know
Yeah,
that,
it's a
but
huge thing.
pretty well. Yeah, so like I was scared in the beginning, but I practiced and I got really good at it. And then I don't get scared anymore. Like zero fear at all. I just walk up and start talking, right? And so it's the same thing with players, right? It's the same thing with going on a visit. It's you practice, you role play. So we role play with them. We give them questions to ask, and we get on calls with them. We get on calls, Zoom calls. Well, this isn't a Zoom call, but we get on
No, you're
Google
good.
Meets calls, and we role play it, and we practice it. And you practice, 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 just like you do on the field, and you get better. And so we role play with them, and we role play over and over and over, and they get good at it, right? Whether it's me or it's Brian or it's one of our coaches, they all have college football coaching experience, and so they're sitting there like a coach, asking the questions and answering the questions that the players asking, and making them respond quickly, and checking their body language, and all of these things that they matter. So
Yeah,
that's how we get them prepared, is the same way they get prepared on the football field, is practice.
exactly. All the little things that you got to put in to make it happen. And you said you prepare, and I was just talking to this other person earlier today, and we were just talking about failure to prepare is preparing to failure. And you really answered that one right in there of how you guys make it better and get it better. Cool,
Yep.
Richie. Along the timeline, what are some of the like kind of biggest breakthrough moments, I guess? This is something I was wondering too. Like, because like now we just walked through it all, but what are some of like those highs, super highs, and then the super lows? It has to be like, oh man, I don't know if this is working as much. Or like the highs are like, yes, like when you break through the next little thing and like you see the next successes. Kind of get what I mean on that one?
Yeah.
So
Maybe
so
ask it
like
a
we have the whole timeline of identifying where we're going, setting
yeah.
things up online, going through all the processes, reaching out to coaches, getting there to the recruitments. And I just know through like doing a business, like you said, some days are awesome, some days kind of suck and you want to quit. You know what I mean? And you've been through
Yeah.
it too.
Yeah.
Along this recruitment journey for the high schoolers and everything, because I know it's hard. What are some of the like kind of lower points? How do you get through it? And then what are those higher points where like you're celebrating? Because I'm sure
Oh,
you're
I see.
celebrating along the way too. It's not just like, yes,
Yeah.
you got the offer, you're done. Like you guys have the bench check marks and everything.
And you also want to get more than one offer. You want to
Yeah,
get, but
exactly.
I mean, look, I think the hardest part for players is the rejection. Especially when you start really putting yourself out there, you're going to get rejected a lot. And so even the players that like we meet and they're like, yeah, we've been doing outreach, it's just not working because they're not doing it the right way, or their son's getting down on himself by doing it. That's tough. And then that's one of the reasons why parents really want to work with us, is because they're like, you know, we want to teach our son how to overcome fear, failure, rejection, what people think about them. These are like really powerful skills that can change someone's life. And so they get rejected a lot. And so we're always there to remind them how rejection leads to success, and that coaches are going to tell them no day in and day out. And the players that get back up and keep doing it are the ones that succeed. So I would say that's probably the lowest part of it. And then also like sometimes there'll be two guys, especially at the higher levels, and they'll be on the fence and they go offer the other kid and not the kid that we work with, right?
But
Like
yeah,
that happens, and that's really devastating, because they went through that with that coach through the entire process, right? They got in front of them, they got him on a call, they went on a visit, and they ended up offering another kid and not them. That's tough, right? So that's probably another experience that's really bad. I think the highs are just like when they get the first offer. It's the hardest one to get. And, it's an awesome experience, and like the joy that they have is really cool. And so we try to catch them at that point and jump on a call with them. But that's what I would say are the biggest lows and the biggest highs.
And I was just thinking as well through that is like probably seeing the small successes along the way. Like, well, now you are posting and like people are noticing you a little bit. Like that's got to feel good in some regard. Or
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
then you do start to reach out to the coaches and like probably go through like kind of your framework of it's
Start
not
getting
just
response.
exactly. And there's all the kind of things along the way. And I loved how you said handling rejection because that is so huge and that's ultimately one of the things why I'm doing what I'm doing too is because like it seems like everything's kind of gimme till get to the real world and then it's figured out real quick. But in the recruitment process, it's not a gimme. It's figured out real quick. You know what I mean? And that's what you're doing with them. As with that, what I was just wondering like with your story too is because I mean I looked into this some, but how how did you start Next Play and how has it evolved? Because I'm sure you had some ups and downs too, but really, Richie, even with talking to you right now, I like am super intrigued and invested in like your story and like what you're doing. It's really interesting and exciting to me. So I want to hear a little bit more about that too.
Yeah, I appreciate that, dude.
Yeah, of course,
Yours as
man.
well. I appreciate, and that's why I'm glad that we got connected. Look, after football, I kind of did what like I played arena ball, which was cool. I really enjoyed that. But I did kind of like what you do when you're done as an athlete, and I got a job. I got into sales and did really well, but I wanted to start my own business. So I kind of started out where someone had asked me to come and speak at a high school because they wanted me to share my football story. So I spoke
Hmm.
at one high school and it turned into two high schools and then three. And then someone said, you should write a book. And I was like, well, I don't know how to write a book. I literally failed fifth grade because I couldn't read, but I'm going to write a book. And so I ended up writing a book and sharing it when I was speaking at these schools, and it kind of just took off. The book took off, and then one school led to, like I said, what, two, three, four, and then all of a sudden I had done 400. I've spoken at 450 schools, and so you know from there it kind of transitioned to speaking at corporate events, and like everything. My motto has always been Next Play, which is our brand, which
Yeah,
is you focus on the one play in front of you, one play at a time. Right? There's one thing, one focus, one play at a time. And so I've always done that. And, that's what I shared, essentially when I was speaking at high schools on going after what you want. Because a lot of people talk about being resilient and going after what you want, but there's no like process, there's no plan. Right.
exactly.
And so that's kind of how Next Play evolved. And then a sales manager was at one of my events and at a high school event, and he said, hey, can you come share this with my sales team? I want you to share your story and Next Play with my sales team. And same thing, one to turn two, two to turn three, and then I don't know the exact number, but I've spoken at over 100 or 200 sales events, and sharing the Next Play and accountability and the Next Play and accountability to that play. That was huge. It was like, what's your next play, what, how, when, and then accountability to execution of that play. So salespeople, very similar to athletes.
Yeah,
Sales is the sport, right? It's the same thing. So like there's KPIs, you get coached on it, and you determine a next play to get better at it, right? That's sales leadership to me. And then you're held accountable to execution of that next play. And so that's essentially what I've taught sales leaders. And through this process, people had always asked me, hey, Richie, mentor more kid. Can you help my son? He's in high school. How does he get a scholarship? What does he do next? So I was always kind of doing this on the side. And then in our last office space, one of the guy that actually like owned the unit that I was renting from had a son. And he's like, can you like really like mentor my son? And so I just started working with him and like more doing it like very consistently and
hmm,
just watching him evolve and change made me realize like this is what I want to do, because it's sales, it's still mentoring sale, like you're still learning how to market, you're learning how to sell, but a corporation like IBM or whoever reaches out to me, hires me to work with their people, but athletes, and so because of that they don't really want it that bad, right? Like the company wants it bad, but the people are like, yeah, I want to get better. You know what I mean? But like
Like whatever, you know.
working working with athletes, one, it's me. Like I'm working with me when I was their age. So like I love that. Two, I know exactly what they're going through. And three, they're like we make athletes go through an interview process. And so we know that they're super hungry. There's 4 criteria we ask for. One is they're coachable, they're committed, they're motivated, and they have grit. If they have those 4 things and they get evaluated to earn a scholarship, that's why we do the evaluation first, then we can work with them. And so because they have those 4 criteria, they show up, they're hungry, they do the work, they're incentivized, they're excited. And so I love working with them. Our coaches love working with them. And so that's why I kind of transitioned and I was like, if a big time company wants me to come and do a presentation or a keynote, sure, I'll still do that. But my focus is on my business, on working with our athletes and helping them get the best scholarship opportunities possible. But that's kind of how it evolved over time.
Oh, dude, that's so cool. Because I'm sure when you were doing some of the speaking and stuff with schools and whatnot, you were still in the sales. When did I assume, but when did you kind of jump ship and start doing your stuff full time and you didn't do the sales specific for whatever you were selling type of thing?
Yeah, so this was a few years ago when I was in our old office space, and like we had the guy that owned the unit had a son that was playing high school football, and people had always asked me, to mentor them, and I would kind of just like, sure, I'll do a phone call or whatever, but he really wanted me to like help him, and so I met with him in person and I helped him more over time, and I realized like this is what I wanted to do. This was way better.
Okay.
And so that's how I realized like I want to do this. And so I pivoted and then over time I've built a team and now we have a
Yeah.
new office space and all that stuff. But yeah.
And so up to like that point a couple years ago at the old office, it was kind of doing this stuff part time, like you're speaking stuff part time while you still had the sales job. That's what it was.
Yeah, yeah. I mean I would do like I would do events every now and then. I mean obviously if you go on like my LinkedIn for example, you could see like I
Yes.
was still doing events, basically funding it. So I mean corporations pay like dumb money, you know,
Yeah.
to do so. But for me, it wasn't about the money. Like, sure, I could do corporate events and make a lot of money and be very happy and not, but to me, like there's no purpose. Like I still
Mhm.
do it because I know there are some people that really want to get better and learn and use Next Play and our accountability system, but working with athletes is just so much more like it's who I am. It's who, it's who I was. And so I know what these kids are going through to a T, especially when they start talking about it. So
Yeah, exactly. It's something you can wake up for and really get after it every time, and it's not monotonous. And that's just why I was wondering. I was wondering, I mean, because obviously you're still hustling, but how the kind of the hustle tied into like how you had to start progressing and pivoting, like you said, and making this a reality so you can help people out. Because how long, this I didn't know, I didn't look into. How long have you then been helping the football players and getting them the 83% of everyone you work with, 83 plus for this year
yeah,
to
this year a
get
little
them the
more.
scholarships?
Yeah, so this is our third senior class.
Is it? Okay.
This is
That's
our
a
third
lot.
senior class. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, uh yeah. I mean, every year it'll be another year, but that's where we're at this point.
No, yeah, exactly. So, Richie, honestly, I kind of got, I mean, I don't know much else I have to ask you. I mean, it wasn't even like we were ping ponging. You laid this out for me, dude. You laid everything out perfectly timely manner, which also makes me just realize how much you're invested into what you're doing, how much you know about it, and how you can help
Yeah.
people out. With that, I always kind of like to know, like, if you had like one biggest takeaway or one like thing to leave with the audience, with like if like any local football players here are going to be listening or anything of the sense, like what would that be?
Yeah. One thing.
You can sleep on a little bit because I know I didn't prep you. I mean, we didn't prep on any of this. It's just
So
conversations.
yeah,
It can be multiple.
but I want to go with one thing. My one thing is, and I want to look at, I'm thinking through the biggest mistake that most high school football players make. Right. And it's not just high school football, it's all players. Because just so you know, like we only work with football right now. we are going to be building out a team for every sport because we want to do it the right way. But it's the same process, right? So,
No, exactly.
yeah. So I would say to take control of the controllable. So there's a lot of things out of your control. Where you go to school, you know, the coach that you have, there's things that are out of your control. But the thing that you can control is you live in an amazing era of having access to the internet and social media. And you can absolutely go from a nobody, from a no small town,
Yep.
and earn a college football scholarship by taking control of the controllables and taking control of your life and not allowing fear and failure and rejection and what other people think about you hold you back. And so that would be my one thing, would be to take control of the process and to go get what you deserve, learn the skills, develop the habits, and become the person that you need to be to get the most opportunities possible.
Control as you can control and learn along the way. Everything you're saying is spot on T. And the other thing that you said of how, because I totally agree. Right now, you are niched on football. Like, it just seems like you know the ins and outs like crazy, you and your
Yeah.
team. But
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was thinking too, that this, with all the other athletes I talk to, this is totally transferable to any of any other sport and what they're going to be going through and everything
It's
else you said.
100%. It's the same. We get people asked all the time, do you work with girls volleyball? Do you work with golf? Do you work and we always say no. Follow our YouTube. It's the same process, but the way I'm building this company is we are going to our whole coaching side of the business is going to be completely built out and maximize football. Then we're going to add the next sport. We're going to hire the right, I
Yeah.
hired someone who had 15 years of Division I recruiting experience and built the whole recruiting department at the University of Arkansas, like a big time SEC program, to head up our football division. And obviously, I did it before him, brought him on. He already knew, he loved the system and how we were doing the outreach and all that. Got him caught up, and now he's working on, he's now hiring coaches. And so I want to build out football first, then hire another. His name's Brian, another Brian, but for golf, and then build that out. And then, a lot of people, they're just building their companies like mayhem, and I don't believe in that. So it's going to take more time in the beginning, and it annoys people because we don't work with their sport, and I'm sorry, but I want to build this out the right way, and so that's why I'm doing it this way.
Oh, exactly. And that is what I can see. I mean, from the get-go and hearing how you position all this stuff, I can see that you are going to be developing this out and building it up into what it'll be pretty successful, Richie, if you keep it going. I mean, that's just what it looks like. And that's why I really like this conversation with you, dude. How could people
No, I
find you
appreciate
if they had any questions or anything else of the sorts?
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is, I would say, it's actually not that big, but I think it's the biggest for our niche for sure as far as subscribers go. But it's just my name, Richie Contartesi, and then you can go catch me on Instagram if you want to send me a DM. It's again my name, Richie Contartesi, and then if you want to go to our website, it's gonextplay.com. So gonextplay.com. If you want to learn more about how we work with athletes and see if your son meets the criteria to get an evaluation, because that's the first step to working with us.
Dude, perfect. And I'll put all that down in the description too, so people have it. But I appreciate that a lot. I don't know. You got any other last things, Richie? Otherwise, I feel like we covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think my last thing was the responsibility piece. I think that's yeah. Other than that, I think that's it.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate it greatly for having you on here, dude. And honestly, I learned a lot from this, but then I think it'll help out a lot of people. So thank you for being on the Athlete's Health podcast, and I'll catch you around, my guy.
Cool.